At my wedding, my wife's SX showed up uninvited. Her reaction shocked the entire room. I'm telling you this story because what happened that day changed everything I thought I knew about love, courage, and standing up for what is right. My name is David, and this is the story of how what was supposed to be the happiest day of my life turned into something I could never have imagined. Before we dive deeper into this story, I want to know where you're rewatching from right now. Drop a comment below telling me what country and city you're in. I love connecting with people from all over the world, and it's amazing to see how these stories touch lives everywhere. Now let me take you back to that day. Anna and I had been together for 3 years before I proposed. She was everything I'd ever wanted in a partner. Kind, intelligent, funny, and she had this way of lighting up every room she walked into. We met at a coffee shop in Portland, Oregon, where she accidentally spilled her latte all over my laptop. Most people would have been mortified, but Anna just laughed, helped me clean up, and insisted on buying me a new coffee and paying for any repairs. That laptop was fine, by the way, but I pretended it needed checking just so I could see her again. Our first date turned into a second, then a third, and before I knew it, I couldn't imagine my life without her. When I proposed on a hiking trail overlooking the Columbia River Gorge with the sunset painting the sky in shades of orange and pink, she said yes, without hesitation. Her eyes filled with tears of joy, and in that moment, I felt like the luckiest man alive. We started planning our wedding immediately, choosing a beautiful venue in the countryside just outside Portland. Anna wanted something intimate, elegant, surrounded by nature. We picked a historic barn that had been converted into an event space, with string lights hanging from the wooden beams and wildflowers decorating every table. The months leading up to the wedding were mostly blissful. We argued about silly things like whether to serve chicken or fish, whether the napkins should be cream or ivory, normal couple stuff. But there was one topic that always created tension, one name that would make Anna's smile fade whenever it came up. Marcus, her ex-boyfriend. They'd dated for 2 years before she met me, and from what Anna told me, the relationship had been toxic. Marcus was controlling, jealous, and when she finally found the courage to leave him, he didn't take it well. He'd call her repeatedly, show up at her workplace, send long messages begging her to come back. It took months before he finally seemed to disappear from her life. Anna assured me that Marcus was in the past, that he'd moved on and we had nothing to worry about. I believed her because I trusted her completely. We didn't invite him to the wedding, obviously. We didn't even send him a save the date. As far as we were concerned, Marcus was a closed chapter, a difficult memory that had no place in our future. Looking back now, I realize how naive we were to think it would be that simple. The wedding day arrived on a perfect Saturday in June. The weather was absolutely gorgeous, sunny with a gentle breeze that rustled through the trees surrounding our venue. Anna looked breathtaking in her wedding dress, a simple but elegant gown with lace sleeves and a flowing train. When I saw her walking down the aisle on her father's arm, I felt tears streaming down my face. This was really happening. This incredible woman was about to become my wife. The ceremony went off without a hitch. We exchanged our vows, our voices shaking with emotion as we promised to love each other through whatever life threw at us. When the officiant said I could kiss my bride, I pulled Anna close and kissed her like it was the first time and the last time all at once. Our guests erupted in applause and cheers. My best friend Jake, who was my best man, clapped me on the back so hard I almost stumbled. Anna's maid of honor, her sister Emily, was crying happy tears. Everything was perfect. Absolutely perfect. We moved into the reception, and that is when the celebration really began. The barn looked magical with all the decorations we'd spent months planning. The DJ was playing all our favorite songs. People were laughing and dancing, and the food was incredible. Anna and I did our first dance to a song we'd chosen together, swaying in the middle of the dance floor while everyone watched. I remember whispering in her ear, telling her how much I loved her, how grateful I was that she'd agreed to spend her life with me. She squeezed my hand and smiled, and I thought nothing could possibly ruin this moment, but I was wrong. About an hour into the reception, I noticed a shift in the atmosphere. People near the entrance started whispering, turning to look at something or someone. Anna was across the room talking to her grandmother when I saw her face change. The color drained from her cheeks and her eyes went wide with what looked like fear. I followed her gaze to the entrance, and that's when I saw him. Marcus. Standing there in a dark suit, looking completely out of place among our invited guests, with an expression on his face that I can only describe as determined. My heart started pounding. What was he doing here? How did he even know where the wedding was? I started moving toward Anna, ready to get security, ready to throw him out myself if I had to. But before I could reach her, Marcus started walking into the room. People stepped aside, creating a path, everyone staring in confusion and growing concern. The music seemed too loud suddenly, inappropriate for what was unfolding. I saw Jake moving toward Marcus from one side, probably thinking the same thing I was. We needed to get this guy out of here before he caused a scene. But then something unexpected happened. Anna held up her hand, stopping everyone in their tracks. She stood up straighter, smoothed down her dress, and started walking toward Marcus. Not away from him, toward him. My stomach dropped. What was she doing? Emily grabbed her arm, trying to stop her, whispering something urgently, but Anna gently pulled away. The entire room had gone quiet now, everyone watching this bizarre confrontation unfold. Even the DJ had noticed something was wrong and lowered the music to almost nothing. Marcus and Anna met in the middle of the dance floor. They were about 10 feet apart, just staring at each other. The tension was so thick you could cut it with a knife. I could see Marcus's jaw clenching, his hands balling into fists at his sides. He looked angry, hurt, and desperate all at the same time. I moved closer, ready to intervene if he made any threatening moves, but I wanted to hear what was about to happen. Everyone did. You could hear a pin drop in that barn. Marcus spoke first, his voice loud enough for everyone to hear. "Anna, I need to talk to you, please, just give me 5 minutes." His voice cracked with emotion, and I could see some of the older guests looking sympathetic, not understanding the full situation. Anna didn't respond immediately. She just looked at him with an expression I'd never seen on her face before. It was strong, resolute, maybe even a little sad. When she finally spoke, her voice was clear and steady, not a trace of fear or hesitation. "Marcus, you weren't invited here, you know that. This is my wedding day and you're not welcome." The words hung in the air, simple and direct. But Marcus wasn't backing down. He took a step closer, and I tensed, ready to jump in. "I know I wasn't invited, but I couldn't let you make this mistake. We belong together, Anna, you know we do. Ivy changed. I'm not the same person I was. Please just talk to me. Don't throw away what we had." I felt anger rising in my chest. This guy had some nerve showing up at our wedding and talking about what he and Anna had. But I stayed where I was because Anna had this under control. I could sense it. She took a deep breath, and when she spoke again, her voice was even stronger. "What we had? Marcus, what we had was unhealthy. It was controlling, it was suffocating. You didn't love me, you wanted to own me. There's a difference, and it took me leaving you to understand that." Some people in the crowd gasped. This was getting real, raw, and uncomfortable. Marcus's face turned red, and he looked around at all the people watching, suddenly seeming to realize he was making a spectacle. But he pressed on. "That's not fair, Anna. I loved you more than anything. I would have done anything for you, and you just left. You didn't even give me a real chance to fix things." His voice was rising now, getting more agitated, and I saw my dad and Jake moving in closer, ready to escort him out if needed. Anna shook her head slowly, and I could see tears forming in her eyes, but they weren't tears of sadness or regret. They were tears of someone who was finally releasing something they'd been carrying for too long. "I gave you dozens of chances, Marcus. Every time you promised to change, every time you said you'd stop checking my phone, stop questioning where I was, stop making me feel guilty for having friends and a life outside of you. I gave you chance after chance, and you never changed. And you know what? I finally realized that I deserved better. I deserved someone who trusted me, who supported me, who loved me without trying to control every aspect of my life." The barn was absolutely silent now except for Anna's voice. She turned slightly, gesturing toward me, and my heart swelled with love and pride for this incredible woman. "David is that person. He's kind, he's patient, he is secure enough in himself that he doesn't need to control me to feel loved. He celebrates my successes instead of feeling threatened by them. He encourages me to spend time with my friends and family. He makes me feel safe, not anxious. That is what real love looks like, Marcus. And I'm sorry you never learned that. Marcus looked like he'd been slapped. His face went from red to pale and his eyes darted around the room, seeing all these people watching him, judging him, understanding now what kind of person he really was. But he still wasn't done. In a last desperate attempt, he pulled something from his jacket pocket. It was a small box. An engagement ring. My blood ran cold. Was he seriously about to propose to my wife at our wedding reception? "Anna, please," he said, his voice breaking. "I bought this 2 years ago. I was going to propose to you. But then you left before I could. I've been carrying it ever since, waiting for the right moment. This is that moment. Please, just think about what you were throwing away. We can start over. I'll prove to you that I've changed." He opened the box, revealing a diamond ring that even from where I stood looked expensive. Some people in the crowd murmured in shock and confusion. This was beyond inappropriate. This was insane. But Anna didn't even look at the ring. She kept her eyes locked on Marcus's face, and what she said next sent chills down my spine and made me fall in love with her all over again. "Marcus, I don't care about that ring. I don't care about your promises. I don't care about your feelings right now because for 2 years while we were together, you never cared about mine. You made me feel small, worthless, like I was lucky you even wanted to be with me. You isolated me from my friends. You made me doubt myself constantly. You damaged my self-esteem so badly that it took me months of therapy after leaving you to even feel like myself again." Her voice grew stronger with each word, and I could see her sister Emily crying, her parents looking devastated as they heard details Anna had apparently never shared with them. "So here is what is going to happen. You're going to turn around, walk out of this barn, and never contact me again. Not a call, not a text, not a message through mutual friends. Nothing. I'm married now. I'm happy. I'm with someone who actually knows what it means to love another person. And you need to move on and get help because the way you treated me wasn't a love. It was possession, and that's not okay." The entire room erupted in applause, spontaneous, thunderous applause that echoed off the barn walls. People were standing up, cheering, some crying. My mom was sobbing into my dad's shoulder. Anna's dad looked like he wanted to physically throw Marcus out himself. Jake and my other groomsmen had moved to form a kind of barrier around Marcus, making it clear that it was time for him to leave. Marcus stood there for a moment, the ring box still open in his trembling hand, looking completely defeated. He finally seemed to understand that he'd lost, that there was no romantic gesture grand enough to undo the damage he'd done or change Anna's mind. He closed the ring box with a snap that sounded deafening in the silence that followed the applause. He looked at Anna one more time, and I saw something shift in his expression. Maybe it was acceptance, maybe it was just embarrassment, but whatever it was, he finally turned and started walking toward the exit. But Anna wasn't quite done. In a voice that was somehow both gentle and firm, she called out after him, "Marcus, I hope you find peace, I really do. I hope you get help and learn how to have a healthy relationship. I don't hate you. I just don't love you, and I never will again. I hope someday you can understand that and truly move on." It was the most gracious thing she could have said under the circumstances, and it showed everyone in that room exactly who Anna was. Not vindictive, not cruel, just honest and strong. Marcus didn't respond. He just kept walking past all the staring faces, past the decorations and the celebration he'd tried to ruin, and out the door. Jake and 2 of my cousins followed him to make sure he actually left the property and didn't try to come back. The moment the door closed behind him, the barn erupted again, but this time it was different. People rushed forward to hug Anna, to tell her how brave she was, how proud they were of her. Her mom was crying and holding her, apologizing for not knowing how bad things had been with Marcus. Her dad looked like he was fighting the urge to run after Marcus and teach him a lesson. I finally made my way through the crowd to Anna. When our eyes met, I saw exhaustion there, but also relief, like she'd been carrying this weight for years and had finally set it down. I wrapped my arms around her and held her tight, not caring that everyone was watching, not caring about anything except making sure she knew I was there, that I supported her, that I was so incredibly proud of her. "Are you okay?" I whispered in her ear. She pulled back just enough to look at me and nodded, a real smile finally breaking through. "Yeah, I am. I really am." The DJ, reading the room perfectly, started playing an upbeat song, trying to shift the energy back to celebration. Slowly, people started to disperse, returning to their tables, picking up their conversations, though I knew this would be the only thing anyone talked about for the rest of the night. Anna and I stayed on the dance floor just holding each other, swaying even though it wasn't a slow song. "I'm sorry," she said quietly. "I'm sorry that happened. I'm sorry he ruined our day." I pulled back to look at her, shaking my head firmly. "He didn't ruin anything. If anything, you made it even more memorable. Everyone in this room just saw exactly who you are, and they're in awe. I know I am." The rest of the reception took on a different energy. It was still joyful, still celebratory, but there was an undercurrent of something deeper. People kept coming up to Anna, sharing their own stories of leaving toxic relationships, thanking her for being so brave, telling her she was an inspiration. My grandmother, who was usually quiet and reserved, gave Anna the longest hug and whispered something in her ear that made Anna cry happy tears. Even some of my buddies, who usually just joked around and drank beer, came up to tell Anna they respected what she'd done. When it came time for the speeches, Anna's sister Emily stood up with the microphone, and instead of the funny, light-hearted speech she'd probably planned, she got emotional. "Ivy watched my sister go through a lot over the years," she said, her voice shaking. "I watched her struggle in a relationship that made her question her worth. I watched her find the courage to leave. I watched her heal. And I watched her find real love with David. What happened tonight was hard to watch, but it was also beautiful because it showed all of us that Anna is one of the strongest people I know. She faced her past head-on and didn't let it have power over her present or her future. That's what courage looks like. I'm so proud to call her my sister, and David, you were the luckiest guy in the world." The applause was deafening again. People were standing, clapping, crying. My best man Jake followed with a speech that balanced humor with heart, talking about how he'd never seen me happier than when I was with Anna, how he knew from the first time he met her that she was special. He also made a joke about how he'd been ready to tackle Marcus if needed, which got a laugh and broke some of the tension. As the night went on, Anna and I found moments to steal away from the crowd, to just be together and process what had happened. During one of these quiet moments on the venue's back porch, under the stars, she looked at me with those beautiful eyes and said something I'll never forget. "Thank you for trusting me to handle that. I saw you ready to step in, ready to protect me, and I love you for that. But I needed to do it myself. I needed to finally say all those things I'd been holding in for years. I needed him to hear it, but more than that, I needed to hear myself say it." I kissed her forehead and held her close. "You were incredible. I've never been more attracted to you than I was watching you stand up for yourself like that. You're a warrior, Anna. My warrior." She laughed, a real, genuine laugh that sounded like music. I prefer to think of myself as a survivor who found her voice, but I like warrior too. We stood there for a while, just breathing, just being, letting the chaos of the evening settle into something we could carry together. The wedding ended around midnight, with our guests slowly filtering out, giving us hugs and congratulations, still buzzing about everything that had happened. As Anna and I drove away to start our honeymoon, tin cans rattling behind our car and "Just Married" written on the back window, I thought about how our wedding hadn't gone according to plan, but somehow it had been perfect anyway. It had been real. It had been honest. It had shown everyone exactly what our love was built on: trust, respect, and the courage to face difficult things together. In the days and weeks after the wedding, the story of what happened spread beyond just our friends and family. People who heard about it reached out to Anna, thanking her for showing what strength looks like, for demonstrating that you don't have to let your past define your future. She received messages from strangers who said her actions inspired them to leave their own toxic relationships or to stand up to someone who'd been controlling them. What Marcus meant as a disruption became a catalyst for so many people to reflect on their own relationships and make changes. As for Marcus, we heard through mutual acquaintances that he left Portland shortly after the wedding, apparently moving back to his hometown in California. We don't know if he ever got the help he needed, if he ever truly understood what Anna tried to tell him that night. We hope he did, not for our sake, but for his own and for anyone else who might end up in a relationship with him someday. Healing is possible for everyone, but only if you are willing to acknowledge your problems and do the work. Looking back now, months later, Anna and I talk about our wedding day as one of the most defining moments of our relationship. Not because of the drama or the confrontation, but because of what it revealed about who we are together. We're a team. We support each other through the unexpected challenges. We trust each other to handle things in our own way, and we don't let the past have power over our present. That is the foundation of our marriage, and it's stronger than any vows we could have written. The truth is, life is messy. Relationships are complicated. Healing from toxic situations takes time, and sometimes confrontation is necessary for closure. What happened at our wedding wasn't what we planned, but it was what we needed. It gave Anna a chance to close that chapter of her life definitively. It showed our friends and family who we really are as individuals and as a couple, and it reminded everyone in that barn that standing up for yourself, speaking your truth, and demanding respect is never the wrong choice. So that's the story of how my wife's SX showed up uninvited to our wedding, and her reaction shocked the entire room. It wasn't the fairy tale ending we'd imagined, but it was ours, and it was real, and it made our bond even stronger. Sometimes the most beautiful moments come from facing the ugliest situations with grace, courage, and honesty. Anna taught me that, and I fall more in love with her every single day. If this story resonated with you, if you've ever had to stand up to someone from your past or support someone you love through a difficult confrontation, I want to hear about it. Drop a comment below sharing your experience. And if you enjoyed this story and want to hear more real-life dramas, relationships, and moments that changed everything, make sure to subscribe to this channel and hit that notification bell. These stories matter. Your story matters. And sometimes sharing them helps us all heal a little more. Thank you for listening to mine.